Tanya, how are you feeling?
I literally, while we were on that, was like popped a Tylenol.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But better, I'm in the office. I was going to tell you when you were talking about the pathways, I don't know that it's a bad. So you know how the providers, they have so much going on, and going to school is one thing, but and somebody can misquote me, but KDHE translates 1 credit hour into 15 KDHE hours. So if they're going to school, I don't know that it's a bad idea to say, hey, if you're going to school, you don't get your 4 health and safety required hours, but you will get some so that they don't feel so overloaded. You may want to look into that.
That's helpful. Yeah.
But it 1 credit hour, I believe, is 15 KDHE hours, but they still need those 4 annual
health and safety.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that might be a bonus to, I don't know, throw out there somewhere to help.
Yep.
Sell it to somebody. I don't know.
No, I love that. Thank you. Hi, guys. Reva, how are you? Amy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. My lighting is a little awkward, so I apologize about that.
My lighting is always terrible because I have windows right behind me.
Yeah.
And like even now, I've got the blinds completely closed. That's just as good as it gets. But it always feels like I've got this. Maybe it looks like a halo from,
there you go.
From your perspective.
It's appropriate.
We could go with that.
Reva. Yep.
Not.
Well, you don't look like you're in witness protection, which is typically what happens when you're backlit like that. So I think you're good. My face looks like I've got a window right in front of me that's got the panes in it, and so it's like cutting the light in different ways. And I've got 2 6-year-olds behind me playing around, wanting to go outside and play in the snow.
And I was saying, between the wind and having this headset on all the time, my hair just does not stand a chance.
Hi, Kelly. Hi, Kim. Hi, Patty. All right, guys. I don't know if there are others that we're expecting, but I know we're pretty crunched on time today. So you should have seen the recommendation for the childcare recruitment and retention working group from Debbie in your email inbox. One point of clarification, I think the last time we actually met as a group, we had put forth 2 potential recommendations to be drafted. One of them is the one you have around a retention bonus or stipend, and one of them was around an awareness campaign for childcare recruitment and retention. We have been, the team at DCF has a marketing partner that they are contracting with through the CCDF relief funds. And I know that they are doing a lot of work related to awareness, and there's a campaign kind of in the planning stages. And we also know the Childcare Systems Improvement team is thinking of something very specific around licensing. So I felt like maybe not adding another 3rd like awareness campaign concept to the docket, but to just be aware that those 2 things are happening. And really the DCF one is the much larger sort of comprehensive one. And I know they have some that Mammoth, their marketing partner, has done some focus groups and some outreach, building some personas directly with childcare providers. And so we'll kind of defer to them to advance that work. So we can ask the team at DCF to share. I know we have Kim on, but I know that it's more in the Megan Smith and that group who's really managing the relief funding work that is running the lead on that. So at some point, it might be good to have them come and actually share what that work looks like. Hi, Amy. Hi, Jen. How are you guys? Awesome. So just to kind of recap what I just said, Amy, I think you came in on the tail end of it. Jen, I think you did as well. Nope, no worries. It was really quick. We had 2 recommendations we initially talked about back in November and December. We've kind of whittled that down to just the one because of other efforts that are happening, comprehensive efforts happening related to marketing and awareness. So we thought it would be good to invite the team at DCF who is helping support that work to come in and talk to this group about that so that it's clear what that effort is. But I think our intent and our vision with that recommendation is fully captured by the work that they are going to be doing. So it makes sense to just kind of be a cheerleader and say, yes, good idea, keep it going, keep moving, and how can we help is probably the right approach. So we have, I think, until 10:30 in our working group today. And that the purpose of this is to pull up the recommendation draft that we have. I'm not going to share my screen because I'd like to see your faces, but does everybody have the version that Debbie sent out? Do I need to forward that to anybody? Are we good? Okay. I would like it if we could just read through that. If you have already looked at it, it isn't that different than what was kind of in that Google doc. It's a little bit more succinct as opposed to lists of things. We wrote sentences and tried to be really purposeful about what we want that to look like. You'll see it broken down into a recommendation to do it and why to do it. And then you'll see an appendix that has implementation recommendations. Again, we're not telling anybody exactly what to do, but we're saying these are things that are top of mind that we think really need to be considered strongly when implementation efforts are underway. So that's kind of how you can look at the 2 documents. So I will pause and let you guys, Patty, go ahead.
Yeah, just looking at this, I'm trying to understand, is this in addition to the funds that have already been earmarked, the ARPA dollars for the one-time bonus?
Nope. This would be supporting that allocation. Does that make sense?
So it's basically the 11 million or whatever has been earmarked. This is something we're supporting that. So are we calling that out in here, or is that not? I mean, is this just kind of a formality support, essentially? Because I mean, isn't it already been earmarked?
It is. So just for those of you who don't know, what Patty's talking about is in the ARPA CCDF relief plans, which are sent out to some state leaders. And then I think Nikki did a presentation to the Workforce Development Advisory Group on it the last time too. There's an $11 million line item in that relief funding plan earmarked for one-time incentives or one-time bonus payments for childcare professionals. So that's what she's talking about. Patty, to my knowledge, there's not an implementation plan behind that at this point. I know there's been a lot of discussion. So this is a way to say, yes, we as the panel, if it's approved, what we would be saying is the Children's Cabinet as the Early Childhood Advisory Council, of which we are the sort of working group for, says, yes, do it. Here's why you should do it. And here are some strong implementation considerations to do it. So.
Sarah, I also think that although none of us know what this Build Back Better is going to look like, having this in place might make it a little bit easier for us to move forward if those dollars start coming forward. And I don't know if that's something that anybody had thought about, but it's kind of been in my mind, how are the things that we're getting in place now through the recovery funds, how could that be helpful if we get more funds? So that was kind of what I was thinking when I read through this. Trying to think a little bit
Thanks, Jen.
longer
Yep.
term.
Sarah, I did not have any questions at all about the recommendation itself.
Okay. Okay.
I did have a few things that I flagged under on the appendix.
Okay.
Not saying that they're wrong, just saying that I was like, is that really what we meant when we were having this conversation? But if it's
Perfect.
only here's some food for thought, maybe it's not even worth getting into. I don't know.
I think we should make the changes, Reva. So the way that this is, the way that this works, the ECAC cannot make anyone do anything, right? So it's a little bit of it's splitting hairs to some extent, but the Early Childhood Advisory Council is a collection of experts in a lot of ways. And so they are essentially you're strongly recommending to take these things under consideration and advisement, but you can't make anyone do anything. So if something in this appendix is misconstrued or we want to change it, this is the time to do it for sure.
So knowing we only have 10 more minutes, do you want to first get consensus that the recommendation itself, that was my thought, but other people may have other ideas, and then maybe spend the rest of our time talking about questions or wording in the appendix piece?
That sounds good. And we will have time before March. March is the vote. So March meeting is the vote. So we will have time to fine tune a few things, but let's use our time as well. Kelly, did you have something?
Oh, I was just going to go back to something Jen said about Build Back Better, but we've kind of moved beyond that. So
okay,
never mind.
Thoughts on the
Can I
recommendation?
ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
About the 11 million that's earmarked.
Sure.
Do we have any concept of how far we're talking about? Roughly $1 an hour per person for this bonus. Does that eat up most of the 11 million? Is there any way we can go to more than $1 an hour? Because when you're making $11 an hour, $1 an hour is nice, but it's no $15 an hour either, is it? Right. So, could we do more? Just throwing that out there, just to think about, food for thought.
Yep.
I think, Amy, it would be great if we had a registry to know how many individuals we had in the workforce. I just have to.
But I'm just thinking, they all have, the affiliates all have to be registered with KDHE. We must have some idea of who's employed.
We do. Kelly, yes. I feel like you have an answer to this.
Well, I kind of have an answer to it. So based on the number of affiliates that we have, and the roles that we were recommending this bonus go to, so teaching staff, administrators, owner operators, things like that, it's about 11,000 people. So $11 million equals to about $1,000 a person. So it would be great if we had more money, but when you're talking about that many people that are qualified to get a retention bonus, it's not going to be that much money.
And I think that goes back to what Jen was saying. So if we can write a recommendation that sets a framework, then it's a matter of how much money do we have and how far can that go? And if there is additional dollars, I think that's where the framework of a recommendation like this really comes into play.
Yeah. And so bringing back up Build Back Better again, what I really see is this retention bonus is something that we can do right now as kind of a stopgap measure. The workforce registry, the career pathway are the stepping stones towards that overall wages plus or whatever formal wages plan we need to put in place for the state to actually get their wages raised to a livable level. And hopefully we'll get something from Build Back Better to allow us to do that. But we are taking great steps to get ready for it if it does come down, and that's the registry and the career pathway. And hopefully these retention bonuses can just be something we can do to be like, thank you guys, hang on. Thanks for hanging with us through COVID and low wages and no benefits and all the stuff you guys put up with.
Well, so just some rough calculations, that there's 11,000 affiliates and providers, et cetera, then at $2,000 bonus, we're already at 22 million, which means we can't do that if we only have 11 million in that pot. So they're really only going to get approximately 1,000 or 50-cent hour away, yada, yada.
Mhm.
But some of those folks are part-time, so there might be some discretion between what a full-time worker would receive. And I think we need to be really careful not to talk about it in a 50-cent an hour raise. That is not what this is.
Right.
This is a one-time bonus. I think
Right.
the conversation, and we talked about it, and that was one of the things I flagged. I think the conversation was, how much does it need to be to
Mhm.
be meaningful? Is a $300 bonus going to be meaningful? No. I think when we had that conversation, and that's where the idea of, well, in your head, if it was $1 an hour increase to salary, that would be a $2,000 one-time bonus to try to make that happen. So yeah, that was one of the things that I questioned, the way that it was put on the amendment is, and it says a range comparable to, so maybe that gets there, but yeah, that was one of the things I was questioning.
Riva, do you have a different way that we should word that? Like, should we just take that section out altogether as a guide and say something just more broad, like it should be at a level that is meaningful? Oh, you're on mute. You muted yourself again.
Sorry, I try to keep my background. That would be my recommendation. I also was kind of questioning the family childcare differential. I know that was based on a national average, but it seems like that is complicating the process a lot. And maybe whoever's going to implement this needs to kind of wade through some of those details. But yeah, I think putting out there that at a meaningful level that would really impact retention might be more helpful. Because again, if there's a finite amount of money, that's going to dictate what can and can't happen.
Great, I made that adjustment.
I agree with Riva, and also about the part-time, full-time. We don't have that information in Claris about if they're part-time or full-time. So we had talked about if we were going to give part-time like 500 and full-time 1,000, they would have to attest to that in there when they go into the red cap to say, yes, I want to accept this bonus. And here's my information so I can get a check, my name, my address, blah, blah, blah. They would have to attest whether they're full-time or part-time if we wanted to do something like that.
What about new hires versus somebody that's been here for 6 months or a year?
We do have length of service time in Claris. So if we wanted to make a recommendation based on how long they've been there, what our initial assessment was everybody that's been there for longer than 6 months.
I'm taking a few notes because again, we'll have time to wordsmith this before March. So Jen and then Patty, just in the time we have left.
Don't anybody get too super excited, but we really have to spend all of this ARPA money at some point in time. And so just because it's earmarked for something, if all of the money isn't spent in a particular category, we might be able to shuffle money somewhere else. Like I said, it's not time for those conversations yet, but let's keep that in mind that 11 million doesn't mean.
That's helpful, Jen. That's where the framework comes into play. I like that. Patty?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so first off, yes, on the recommendation, what I would suggest that we would take this opportunity to do is, knowing that this is the first time that we are directly focusing on the workforce is to, and because money is attached to it, is to take the opportunity to start to get lay some framework. I mean, we do understand, we know how many affiliates we have, but really use it as an opportunity to gather demographic information, to gather some baseline education. We still know at this point it's self-reporting, but this is really going to be a potential first step for the registry. And when we ask for this information, we need to ask for permission to use that information for further communication with the registry. So I think it's really, we need to use this opportunity. So I would suggest as well, as it's been stated, that was another one of my concerns about relating it to any hourly pay. I agree with that fully as well. But I really think that we need to use this as an opportunity, almost like that they are, I mean, we want to call it what it is, that it is a bonus, but really also there's always leverage. Getting a response on a full needs assessment, demographic information, utilize that opportunity.
Patty, I completely agree with that. And maybe it could just be in a box that says this information does not impact you receiving this bonus, but help it. And I also think wage information would be extremely helpful to have, because we really don't have good, solid, accurate wage information. We have some, but you're right, Patty, this is a prime opportunity to really gather some critical pieces of info that, because I'm guessing wages have shifted a bit in the last year, even because of the challenges around hiring. So I think this is a great opportunity. Good idea.
I think so too. And that brings up another thought in my mind that we had kind of thrown around. So there's a couple of states that put a stipulation on the bonus. If somebody made over $30 an hour, they weren't going to get it. I don't know if we have anybody in the state that makes over $30 an hour, but what do you guys think about that? I mean, I know some of the hospital systems are able to pay way higher, and there might be some program directors or maybe administrators that are making good money anyway. Would we even want to consider thinking about something like that, or just across the board?
It's all self-report, so unfortunately, there's really no way. I mean, I don't know that that's necessary to do. I do think that we also need to think about, since potentially this will be over a $600 threshold, it would require a 1099 and it will be reportable income. So there's some opportunities for education.
We have, so I know we're out of time. We got to go back to the big group. So 2 thoughts to that. I added the note about collecting additional information at the professional level in the recommendation itself. And in the appendix, we can actually list some of what those things might be. So we can determine that. The second thing is we have looked at the benefits cliff, that the impact on benefits. So this one-time payment is excluded from counting as income. For purposes of benefits calculation. So we'll put that information as well, so that professionals are very clear that accepting this does not impact their ability to retain their current level of benefits. So,
but it would still be taxable income.
For sure. It just doesn't impact.
I'm not sure if it is. We haven't been able to get a clear answer about whether ARPA dollars are taxable. I don't think that they are, but I haven't been able to get a real clear answer from anybody on that, because those stimulus payments we all got, those were not taxable.
Good question.
Can we talk about this later? But I really believe that they are taxable, and I think that I've got some information that might be able to help you.
Yeah, if we could get some clear documentation on whether they are or aren't, that would be really helpful.
Okay, let me see what I can find.
So I'm going to, Tabitha is unable to make it. She's our chair of this group. I'm going to present this just as a base recommendation. I would love it if you guys would chime in with some of the considerations that have gone into this conversation as we share it with the full panel, and help kind of respond to questions that folks might have as we go. Does that make sense? All right. Thank you guys. Sorry for the crunch time today.